Soul. Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Daily Roundup on this, a Friday, February 24th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host. Do you know what, folks? Today is World Bartender Day, and whenever a bartender asks my friend if she wants her martini shaken or stirred, her answer is always the same, namely, does it really look like I give a rodent's rectum? Mm-hmm. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
David, I'm doing great. I'm flattered that you think that I'm the kind of girl that would even order a martini.
Hey, if it's good enough for James Bond, it must be good enough for the Khaleesi.
No. I'm not a martini girl. I'm a simple woman, more of a Coors Light girl or Pilsner. It's also Twin Peaks Day. And that was my indulgence at the beginning of the pandemic. I thought, well, everybody's sort of stuck inside. All the kids' stuff was canceled. So I would allow myself one episode of Twin Peaks every night when I was on the treadmill, just so I didn't find myself like doing nothing and just sitting there.
The TV series. I'm sorry, Sheila. I thought you were referring to Busty Lemieux.
I know what you were thinking. It's also National Trading Card Day, and I know you have stories about trading cards, I'm sure. And also National I Hate Coriander Day. Is coriander the same as cilantro, by the way?
I believe so. Don't know. Who would hate that? That's a delicious herb.
You know what? Some people really viscerally dislike it. I actually like it, and I don't really care for vegetables whatsoever, but I don't mind it. But I know my kids say it tastes like soap.
No, I totally disagree with that. And by the way, on National Trading Card Day, all the trading cards that I purchased as a child, and they somehow got lost as I went into adulthood, and some of those would have been worth a lot of moolah. They're gone. In the 90s, I resumed buying trading cards. They're all sealed in boxes. I've been told by an expert they're basically worthless.
For sure.
Once the 80s was over, both for trading cards and comics, pretty much everything was overproduced and it's garbage. Just my luck, Sheila.
Just your luck. I should tell everybody what we're doing today because it looks like we've got a lot on the go today. Trudeau treating Donald Trump like, I guess, Bloody Mary. Like, you can't even say his name 3 times. Like, I'm sure the caucus just stands in front of a mirror at night and says, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, 3 times into a mirror to scare themselves at sleepovers. Anyways, we'll get to that in a second. But this is the Rebel News Daily Roundup. It's hosted by David. Just about every single day of the week. Sometimes I co-host 2-3 days a week, which is fun because I love to sit down and shoot the breeze with my friend David and bring the rest of you along with us, I suppose. We are streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Super U, and Getter. Is that right?
Yes.
I think that's about right. Anyways, I might have left one off there. We remain streaming on the censorship platform of YouTube, even though they've completely demonetized us over there, because there's 1.6 million of you who watch us over there who I think that might be your preferred platform of choice. And we don't want to abandon you. And, you know, I say all the time, I'm kind of spite motivated. They don't want us there, so let's stay there. When I don't get invited to things, I like to go to those things. Same thing. But if you want to support the work that we do completely willingly, might I suggest you move over to Rumble or Odyssey. Those are 2 great free speechy platforms. They don't really care about your politics. I don't really even know about the politics of the people who run those platforms. And I think that's how it's supposed to be. But they allow you to support the work that we do at Rebel News through a paid chat. On Rumble, it's called a Rumble Rant. On Odyssey, it's called a Hyper Chat. And we will address your question, comment, story idea, anything really. towards the end. Tell us a joke, whatever. Let me know if my audio is screwed, because David likes to turn the sound up in the studio and then it gets picked up in the studio mic and creates a big fat echo. I know what you're doing there, David.
Oh, no,
So
it's coming in
let us know
loud
in
and
the
clear.
chat. I know that. I know. So let us know in the chat. Anyways,
And Sheila,
I think
if
that's
I may, when we ask for a donation, as I've often said, I think that is the most honest way of fundraising. You can choose
Yep.
yay or nay, as opposed to the mainstream media where it's like the Rogers negative option marketing, except you're not allowed to option out. You have to pay no matter what. And I just want the latest issue, Sheila, of the tragically named Richmond Hill Liberal. That's my local newspaper. When I moved to Richmond Hill, it was 3 times a week, then 2 times a week. Now it's just once a week. It's basically a pamphlet full of, not even full these days, of supermarket flyers. Anyways, it landed on my doorstep. Here it is. And under the name Richmond Hill Liberal, there's a tiny little statement and a logo. The logo is for the Government of Canada, and the statement says, right on the front page, just so you know who's paying the bills, funded by the Government of Canada. They don't even hide it anymore, Sheila.
Do you know
That's
what?
what it says right there. Funded by the
like
Government
a warning. No, that's like a warning label that they put on cigarettes, the scary teeth that they put on cigarettes. I'm happy they put the warning label on there so that you know what you're getting into. Brainwashing ahead, like caution, brainwashing ahead. I'm happy they should put that on everything. They should put that on the National Post. They should put a disclaimer on all their social media accounts. I like it. Should be bigger, bolder, probably in red.
But it just shows you from back in the day, and, you know, I've been doing this shtick almost 40 years, I guess, Sheila, but how much the industry has changed. A newspaper, any media outlet, they would say we're answerable to no one, not even our biggest advertiser. If they came to us and said, you pull that story or you back off or we pull our advertising, they go ahead, do it. Now they almost proudly say, here's our sugar daddy, Prime Minister Blackface McGroper, the name of the very paper, The Liberal.
Yep.
Do you kind of get an idea what kind of content you're going to see in this rag?
Hustling for donations and subscriptions, it ain't easy, but it's an honest day's work. Unlike that.
If I had a budgie, I wouldn't even line its birdcage with this. I wouldn't even be that offensive to my fine feathered friends. Let me tell you, Sheila.
Well, you know what, David, let's get into the news of the day. Efron, do we want to go to quickly show an ad for Trudeau on trial? I want to let everybody know that tickets are going fast for our final, so far, in-person screening of Kean Simone's latest documentary, Trucker Commission, Trudeau on Trial, and it documents the 6 weeks that Kean spent in Ottawa covering the Public Order Emergency Commission. And once you watch it, you will be absolutely convinced, as though you need convincing, that Justice Paul Rouleau came to the absolute wrong decision when he ruled that Justin Trudeau was justified in using the War Measures Act, invoking martial law to combat sometime errant honking, bouncy castles, hot tubs, street cleanups, and just people who were in there for the full pull. That's what the problem was. They weren't going home, and they were the most effective opposition Justin Trudeau had ever faced. So we have one more screening. It's March 8th, so you've got a little bit of time. But again, last 2 screenings sold out, and people who waited were like, Sheila, can you help me get a ticket? And I'm like, no, it becomes a fire code issue at some point. So please, if you want to get a ticket to Trudeau on Trial, it's March 8th in Edmonton at Church in the Vine. Great church, great venue, even better people. And you can join us there. We'll have the lawyers from the Trucker Commission, so Eva Chipiuk and Keith Wilson, who found themselves sort of flung in the middle of this, trying to help the truckers navigate the legal precariousness that they found themselves in Ottawa with the inept police and the out-of-control municipal government there. And we can't commit to it, we might have Tamara Leach there. It's pretty certain. She has been in attendance at our other events. It's just sort of some fine details we have to work out. She'd love to be there. We're just doing our best to make it happen. So anyways, go to TrudeauOnTrial.com to get your tickets, like right now.
And
This
by
is
the
for-
way, folks, Sheila Gunn Reid is not exaggerating when she's concerned about a fire code issue. If you want any proof, just get the film Inglourious Bastards and watch the climatic scene of the theater going up in flames. Although that was kind of a good thing because most of them were Nazis.
People, what are you doing? I want them to come to the movie. What's wrong with you?
No, but I'm just saying this is the reason why you can't pull favors. You're so caring about the health and safety. So that's why we're not exceeding the fire code. So everybody can get out in an orderly fashion, unlike those nasty Nazis in Inglourious Bastards.
Yes. We should go to this Trudeau town hall in Quebec with the farmers. You see, Trudeau doesn't come to Alberta where all the farmers are, where we grow all your food, because you won't get a warm reception from us. And so they say they're talking to farmers, but this is like a farming association. It's not actual farmers. It's like the trucking association isn't actually reflective of truckers. It's the lobby group. So he goes to this agricultural lobby group and he says some stupid things. So first off, maybe we'll talk about the one that I alluded to at the very beginning about somebody asked him about supply management, or maybe it wasn't even about supply management, but he responded about supply management because he's an idiot. And it's funny because he couldn't even mention Donald Trump's name.
Puis là, je regarde aller la gestion de l'offre, puis on en perd tout le temps. Puis là, on a tous les coups qui embarquent avec ce qui arrive avec l'Ukraine. Puis là, je me dis, est-ce que je suis intéressé à encourager ma relève à continuer ce que je fais? Parce qu'on perd tout le temps des plumes dans la gestion de l'offre. J'aimerais avoir votre point de vue. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire pour nous aider pour que je sois encouragé à ma relève? Oui, on y va.
Écoute, au niveau de la gestion de l'offre, on a eu à défendre la gestion de l'offre de façon extrêmement sérieuse contre un président américain, l'ancien, je ne veux pas mentionner son nom, qui voulait l'éliminer. Il s'était donné comme but de s'attaquer directement et de changer le système canadien pour qu'on n'ait plus de gestion de l'offre. Évidemment, les Américains, tout le monde soutient leur agriculteur de différentes façons. Eux, ils le font avec des subventions massives. Nous, on a choisi de créer un système de gestion de l'offre parce que ça donne la stabilité, ça offre la prévisibilité et c'est quelque chose qu'on a su défendre contre un président américain qui était parmi les plus protectionnistes qu'on aurait pu jamais voir.
So Sheila, if I may wade in right off the bat, because this is a subject I actually know a lot about. Once upon a time, I was with a trade magazine that covered the hotel and restaurant scene. I spent about 6 months of my life, this is back in 1993, doing research on supply management. Why so long? Well, this is pre-internet, so I actually had to go to the Toronto Reference Library and go through microfiche. Oh my God, Sheila, the kids today have no idea how good they have it with the Googler machine. But basically, it was to find out the origin of supply management, which dates back to the early 70s. Now, who was the Prime Minister of Canada in the early 70s? Well, that would be, shockers, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the alleged father of Justin Trudeau. And essentially, supply management affects 4 commodities in Canada, primarily dairy and chicken, but also turkey and eggs. And it is, when you drill down, it gets very technical, but basically it's this. It's like a Soviet economic system. It is giving out quota, and those who have quota, and by the way, some of the people who have quota, Sheila, are not dairy farmers or chicken farmers. They're Bay Street investment people. They're lawyers. And without quota, you cannot get into those 4 commodities. I should tell you, Sheila, I don't know if you know this, but in the early 70s when supply management was first being rolled out, it was such a disaster that there were actually Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants closing early because they had no chicken. Imagine that the name of your commodity, chicken, is right in your trademark name, and you have no chicken to sell, so we may as well lock the doors. How he's blaming Donald Trump, who subscribes to a free market economy, is beyond me. And by the way, in case you think I'm beating up on the farmers, I urge our viewers, if you haven't seen it, it went viral. It was that farmer in the Niagara region that posted a social media video of him pouring thousands of liters of milk down the drain because he simply did not have the quota. So instead of donating it to a food bank, instead of giving this to maybe a single mom trying to make ends meet, that is verboten in Justin Trudeau's Canada, so it goes down the drain. Your thoughts, Sheila?
There's a way, by the way, for anybody who argues with me and says, oh, Sheila, the Americans are subsidizing their agriculture industry. Yeah, they do. But they also subsidize everything. They subsidize corn. We don't have supply management in Canada for corn. They subsidize their pork and their beef producers. We don't have that here. Isn't it interesting? And I think this is based on where the farmers are, by the way, that we subsidize milk, but we don't subsidize beef. Yeah. Because guess where the majority of the milk producers are in this country? In the East. And the majority of the beef producers are out here in the West. If we can make a go of it in the open market as price takers, by the way, against a subsidized American market as beef producers, then surely our milk producers can do it. And it limits innovation, by the way. So you go across the border into the United States, or you go to Europe, and you're like, holy cow, look at all the crazy kinds of cheese here.
Yes.
And it's not outrageously expensive for all these like artisan styles of cheese. And it's because you can't do that here. They have these boutique farms that produce boutique cheeses. And it's not out of the range of the average person to go and buy. We are prohibited from doing that here because you can't have a boutique farm. You have to have a massive farm because that's the only way your quota makes sense.
Sheila, if I may weigh in.
Our pork, by the way, our pork producers also, they compete on the open market as price takers, not price setters, against highly subsidized industries around the world. This is protectionist for a certain subset of farmers that exist largely in the East. Now, don't get me wrong, Western farmers, there are some milk producers out here who benefit from it, but this can be unraveled, and Australia did it in 2000, and they introduced, their quota system was far more entrenched than ours. They introduced theirs in the 1920s. They unraveled it in 2000. Farmers haven't suffered. They have more farmers now than they did when they unraveled the quota system. And the price to the consumer dropped, guess what? 30%. Wouldn't that be great in an inflationary crisis?
Oh, 100%, Sheila. And what you said about artisan cheeses, I remember back when it was still being published, Saturday Night Magazine, they had a fascinating feature, and it was about how, yes, in Ontario and Quebec, you can go to some dairy farms, and it's almost like buying, well, back then, because it wasn't legal yet, marijuana. So you go to the farmer and go, do you have any of that, good stuff? And he'll eye you down, and he'll figure out if you're a narc or not. And it's basically under the counter because they don't have the quota to have these fantastic artisan cheeses. So you see what's happening, Sheila? It's actually stifling the creativity of the dairy industry because it's based on quota. And one last thing, I think I've mentioned this anecdote before. When I was doing my research, I don't think it made the final cut of my story, but there was a chicken farm in southern Ontario, and basically they were going to grow organic free-range chickens.
Yep.
Every single ounce, Sheila, was going to be destined for U.S. export. So in other words, it was not going to affect the Canadian market one iota. They went to the board, denied. Even though, because you don't have the quota, rules are rules, no flexibility. So even though this would have created jobs, this would have created economic wealth, this would not have affected the chicken market one iota. They could not grow this product exclusively for export south of the border. This is an outrageous system. But we all know, in terms of politics, not only does Trudeau Jr. Support it, we saw that unbelievable video of Andrew Scheer back in the day when he won the top job at the Conservative Party, drinking that carton of milk, because that was the difference on the 13th ballot by less than 1% of Mr. Scheer defeating Maxime Bernier. It was the dairy farmers that came en masse to, tweak the vote. Like I said, less than 1%. And do we have that? There you go. Glug, 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 glug. Talk about getting a finger poked in your eye. I wonder, Sheila, had Maxime Bernier won, and it was that close, it was literally a photo finish, do you think things might have been different, say in the 2019 election?
I'm not sure. I think Justin Trudeau would not have been able to get away with all the things that he had done, because he would have had an effective opposition during the time when those other two wet blankets were in charge of the party. And it probably would have led the Conservative provincial governments in the right direction. They would have felt emboldened and empowered to stand up because someone would actually be saying things that are mainstream Conservative ideas. For example, on this issue of supply management, I think at the Conservative leadership last time around, there was only one candidate that was, and it might have been two, but I know for sure one that was vocally against supply management. That was it. The party is fully entrenched in this Soviet-style management. And I get that Canadian farmers benefit from this, but it is not a Conservative principle to hold marketing boards, to force farmers to sell their product to a marketing board instead of to whomever they wanted. It's why I was against the wheat board. And some farmers said, yeah, let's keep the wheat board because it inflates our prices and it takes the marketing issues off our hand. But if you're a person, you should not be a slave. If you're an entrepreneur, you should never be a slave to a marketing board. Because at the end of the wheat board, I can sell my wheat to whomever I want. But dairy farmers, even the freedom-minded ones who are forced to work within a quota system, if you walk up to their farm, it is illegal for them to sell you milk, especially raw milk. They just can't. That's wrong.
Oh, raw milk. You'll go to jail for that in this country,
Straight
Sheila.
to the slammer.
I'm not kidding. But you know what? But this is a creation of politics, supply management.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so sad that going back to 2018, when the Conservatives had their convention, that Maxime Bernier took a principled and moral stance to dismantle or at least reform this Soviet-style marketing system. Andrew Scheer reached out to the dairy farmers. I got your back. And that's what moved the dial ever so slightly. And we ended up with, I know Andrew Scheer's a nice guy, but an ineffective leader. And I just wonder how things might have been so radically different going back 4 years ago had Maxime Bernier won. And this looks like the wedge issue that cost him. And I think it's sad because he was right, Scheer was wrong.
Well, and also, you see people who say, like we can't let American dairy into Canada because it contains growth hormones. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. By the way, if you're worried about the hormones in your food, maybe put away your soy milk latte and your cabbage and all those sorts of things that actually have estrogen mimicking chemicals in them. But yeah, American dairy has no more hormones in it than Canadian dairy does. So, I mean, it's just nonsensical. But the only way you can get around this is with disinformation.
So suddenly they're concerned about estrogen in the milk, and yet the latest on Busty Lemieux, he's saying that his Z-cup breasts are not fake. They are real. He had a growth spurt when he was 39, and those are real mammalian glands because of estrogen, evidently. And we have to protect him.
Yeah.
Where exactly are we on the estrogen file, Sheila?
Do you know what? By the way, if you're concerned about hormones in your food, why are you drinking the expression of the mammary glands of a bovine. They require prolactin to produce milk. Like it's so unscientific, it's nonsensical. I think only 20% of American dairy farmers even remotely use the synthetic form of prolactin, I think it is, and it's identical to the naturally occurring form. Like, it's just so stupid, but it has to be nonsensical and made up to justify forcing struggling Canadians to pay more for their like staples of their diet in these protectionist nonsensical policies.
Well, having said that, I think we should go to our next advertisement. Efren's getting very strict about that, and you don't want to get on the wrong side of super producer Efren. And we'll come back with some more interesting content. Maybe, how about that? Our great colleague Alexa yelling questions to Justin Trudeau, not because she's mad at him, but that's the only way we get to ask the Prime Minister
standing up for Alberta
as he's
farmers,
running away into the wind, right?
Yeah.
So we'll be right back after this ad, folks.
If you want to look good and shine like me, you can do so at our store. Go to ribbonnewstore.com. On this website, you have so much different style to wear, as this one, my favorite one, Justin Castro. With my code Alexa10, you will have 10% off on your next purchase. So don't hesitate, go now and look so good like me.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
Oh, Sheila, I so love that Freedom Passport. It really does look like the real McCoy.
It looks
Maybe
great.
one day when I'm feeling cheeky, I'll show it at the border. Of course, those guys don't really have a sense of humor, but you never know. It's kind of like Canadian Tire money. I find the further south and the further west you drive in the United States, you can actually pass that off as real Canadian money. You know, who's the guy on that paper? Oh, that's our first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Mechanic.
Is that his real name? I forget his real name. That guy has a real name, though, by the way. Also, this shirt is in the store.
Guilty.
It's the guilty one, Justin Trudeau. It's part of the merchandise package for Keane's documentary Trudeau on Trial. So that is also in our store. And if you want to use Alexa 10 or David 10 or Sheila 10 to get 10% off, and I think shipping is always free. By the way, just before we move on, going back to the dairy thing, here's the thing. If you don't want to drink milk with synthetic hormones in it, if you want to drink organic milk, if you want to drink raw milk, great. Put it on the label and let you choose.
Yes.
But because of these Soviet-style marketing boards, you don't get to choose. So if you don't care that they're using, only 20% of American farmers are using, they're using synthetic bovine growth hormone in their milk, which obviously after using it for decades has no impact on human health. If you don't care, put it on the label. You can make the choice, but do not confine people to a system where there's absolutely no choice whatsoever. I think you should always have the choice to buy whatever you want.
You know what, Sheila, you're absolutely right. And it's like going skiing or snowboarding, say. There is a chance you might get a concussion, break a leg, but you're an adult. It's up to you to roll the dice. I can choose to ski or not ski. And that's what this is all about, choice. As long as I know I'm getting raw milk, unpasteurized milk, it's incumbent upon me to choose. And also, the lefties out there, the adherents of the nanny state, they will always play this card. Oh, but wait a minute. We're in a socialized medical system in Canada. All taxpayers have to pay for your recovery. So if you're going to do that, maybe you have to pay for it yourself. And I'm going, no. This is a monopoly that affects me directly. If you're going to play the healthcare card, give me an option to opt out of paying my taxes, which are going up every year for our medical system, Sheila, and have me get the money. And then fair enough, if I get hurt, I'll have to go out to a private clinic. Oh, but they don't like that either. So what I'm saying, Sheila, they want it both ways.
Same people that are pro-legalization of hard drugs are mad because other people want to drink raw milk. Sorry, no thanks. Also, if we want to play that game, I'm happy to have a health and fitness social credit score scheme in this country, because some of us will be paying a lot and others will be paying next to nothing.
Incredible. Well, as we promised, Alexa yelled some questions to Justin Trudeau. What was she asking about? Well, it had something to do with farming, I believe. Why don't we roll that clip and check it out?
Hot water, especially with the China influence on the previous election, the disagreement of many from the verdict of the invocation of the Emergencies Act, the inaction from his liberal government with the illegal immigration at Roxham Road, and so on. So I'm just going to try to catch Mr. Trudeau to ask him a couple of questions about the farmer problematic. Let's check it out. Monsieur Trudeau, allez-vous aller en Alberta rencontrer les fermiers là-bas aussi?
Yeah, and right into the sunset, there go those EV Teslas. Oh, what am I saying? No, they're Chevy Suburbans using fossil fuels, 8-cylinder engine, which never gets turned off winter or summer because, God forbid, blackface gets into an SUV that's not air-conditioned or heated, depending on the season. But again, what a coward. He just will not answer our questions, will he, Sheila?
No, the only farmers he talks to are the ones from the lobby group, right? Like he won't actually go talk to real life agricultural producers who are being hammered on their input costs because of the nitrogen tariffs or the fertilizer tariffs, Justin Trudeau's proposed nitrogen reductions, his carbon tax, which hits all the inputs along the way. Even though they say, we don't tax farm fuel. Yeah, but there's other things. Those are the only power and energy that we use as farmers. So shipping costs, all those things. He won't talk to real life farmers. He'll only talk to these hand selected ones at this town hall at the lobby group. But I think this leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, and Sheila, before you do, you can see the clip. This is when you know Justin Trudeau is speaking to, say, a blue-collar audience or an outdoorsy audience.
Or what he thinks is. Because I think these are lobbyists. But
as you can see, he's lost his jacket, he's loosened his tie, and he's rolled up his shirt sleeves. You see, I'm like you, folks. Acting!
No, that's totally what my husband looks like when he's out there on the Kubota. He just looks like this. The back of his hair always makes me angry, and I don't know why. It's just that stupid. It sits in his collar. It should have made me angry, but there's so much about him that just annoys, like everything. His affect, how he's using his hand there, that just I can't. Anyways, let's go to somebody who's a little bit more normal and who doesn't fake being authentic with a blue collar crowd. So Donald Trump went to Ohio. Donald Trump is not the president of the United States. He is, I think, running to be the president of the United States again. But this man beat the actual president of the United States, the Alzheimer-riddled Swiss cheese-brained Joe Biden, but also the diversity hire Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, to the place where I think one of the worst ecological disasters in modern history in the United States has occurred. I think we will never know I think we will know, but time will tell the full extent of just what has happened there. And instead of, rushing to this place as though they do when there's a hurricane or a natural disaster, because this is sort of led by the ineptitude of the administration, they stayed away for 3 weeks until Trump went. And Trump said he went because he knew if he went, he would drag the administration there. And sure as hell, he was right. Let's show this residents of Ohio chanting to Donald Trump, which I don't think Pete Buttigieg and Biden got the same reception.
All right, guys, come to the right. All right, guys. Just like this. Come on in close.
Not showing up. You showing up before he did.
Terrible. I think it's terrible. You know
Thank
that.
you so
Let me
much
see
for
that.
coming.
Get him out of here. Thank you so much.
Sheila, yet again, another rock star reception. I got to tell you something. Just before that, and I learned this from the great one, Mark Levin, on his radio program 2 days ago, Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, when he showed up, guess what, Sheila? It was at 7 a.m. It was basically a quick photo op and then gone. Then he had his presswoman take questions from the media on the condition that they turn off their recording devices. I mean, who does he think he is? Desmond Cole, for God's sakes? Compare that, and that's the Secretary of Transportation. Compare that to Donald Trump coming in with all those, thousands of liters of bottled water, and standing right there talking to people, not running away. And by the way, another unbelievable lie I came across on social media. I'm sure it's a lie because it's too preposterous. Someone put out there, Sheila, that, all that bottled water Donald Trump donated, it's 11 years past the best before date. Where do they come up with this crap? You're thinking that Donald Trump, and especially a man of his wealth, sourced out expired bottled water. Think of how much of a negative photo op that would be if that were true. Absolutely despicable. And one last thing, I spoke to Efren and Lincoln, who went down there a week and a half ago, Sheila. My heart breaks for those people of East Palestine because it was already a very, very hard housing market to get out of that little town. Now, that housing market is extinct. No one's going to buy a house there. In the years ahead, and it will be years, we'll find out what the cancer rates are from that little town. We'll find out if there are any birth defects thanks to the EPA's strategy of a so-called controlled burn. And for the Secretary of Transportation to be scared of his own shadow and run away and not even face the music, absolutely deplorable.
Yeah, but that reception there for Trump is exactly why nobody ever visited them. Because this is flyover country. This is blue collar America. And these fancy Democrats don't give a damn about them.
Yep.
They treat them the same way the Liberals treat Alberta, like a colony from which your resources and wealth should be extracted. But who gives a damn about the people who live there? They really don't. Trump rounded up bottles of water. And when he couldn't buy any more, he rounded it up from his resorts and hotels to bring to these people at his own expense. Yeah. And I think he probably did more for these people than FEMA ever did. And again, I don't know if a controlled burn was the best way to do it. Let's even assume that it was. Let's say there was no good way to deal with this, and a controlled burn was really the only way. Okay, fine, but don't lie to these people about the health ramifications now going forward, about what that controlled burn means. Donald Trump, what I love about Donald Trump, and I'm not saying he's the right guy to be the next president. I'm sort of a fan of Ron DeSantis. But I like Donald Trump because he is the most blue-collar billionaire you've ever seen in your life. Yep. Though he's wearing expensive suits, I assume he has a gold-plated toilet. I just assume that he's a guy who's kind of that tacky that he has a gold-plated toilet. But he seems more at home with the hard hat guys at a coal mine than he would with the fancy Democrat donors. I just firmly believe that. And I think the people feel it's authentic too. And you can see this in the next clip that I'm going to call for, Efron. I saw this and I was like, this is perfect Trump. This is exactly why he was able to flip all those Democrat states. This is how he was able to make inroads in the Rust Belt, reach the Reagan Democrats who had sort of been left by the Republican Party. It's Trump in the McDonald's buying food. And as you watch this, you know in your heart, Trump knows the menu at McDonald's off by heart. You know he does. Where Biden would come in and he would be like, I'd like a large, and then he would ask for a Whopper or something, right? Because he doesn't know this middle America culture, but Trump does. You know that not only does he know the menu at McDonald's, he's got his favorites. Let's watch this.
What's your specialty today?
How are you today? Nice to meet you.
Hello, everybody. That's a nice, beautiful looking group of people. So I know this menu better than you do. Okay? I probably know it better than anybody in here. We're going to take care of the fire department.
Okay.
We're going to take care of the police department. What's your...
So he walked into that McDonald's and he bought, I think, everything that they could make for the residents and the firefighters there. So this is also a McDonald's. It's kind of been shuttered for a little bit because of what happened there. The people who work there are also residents, so they're struggling. And he just said, you know what, I'll take everything. And when he says, I know the menu better than you do, I firmly believe that. There was what was that? I think he invited the Super Bowl winners, or maybe, I forget. He invited a sports team to the White House and the spread was from McDonald's. And I was like, you know what, I love it. I love it. I don't eat McDonald's. I don't eat fast food. But that's how he won middle America right there.
And Sheila, I can't wait to see what I think is going to happen, which is this. His detractors will say, look at that, giving those poor people fast food, which is junk food. It's going to give them obesity and heart attacks and blah, 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 blah. Why didn't Mr. Trump go to a vegan restaurant and get proper nourishment? I'm telling you, he can do nothing that should be admirable for the left-wing media in the United States. I guarantee you they're going to spin that goodwill story, put it on its head, and say this was a bad thing Donald Trump did, buying all that junk food for those people of East Palestine.
Yes, let's go to this one last Trump clip. It's Savannah Hernandez. Trump, what he would have done for East Palestine if he were the president.
East Palestine.
FEMA would have been here a long time ago.
Why do you think they waited, Mr. Trump? Do you think it had to do with the fact that...
They waited for me. When I came, everybody came.
Thank you, sir.
When I came, everybody decided to come, right? You know that. Nice to see you. Have a good time. You look so great up here.
Sheila, can you repeat what Donald Trump said? There was a lot of background chatter. What did he say exactly?
Okay, so what he said, Savannah asked, what would you have done for East Palestine? And he said, FEMA would have been here a lot sooner.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, and somebody else said, why do you think they're here now? I think was the question. And he said, because they came for me. So he knew that by coming there, he would prompt the administration to do something by shaming them into doing something that he, as technically a private citizen, has done more for them than the administration has.
Indeed. And beyond this being a home run public relations effort, Sheila, he did do something good for the people of East Palestine. He's given them water. He fed them a hell of a lot more than what the federal government in the U.S. has done for these poor people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We've got a couple more things on the list of things that are in the description box of the Rumble description. So I try to get to those because otherwise I get angry email inbox messages. So maybe let's go to an ad and then we'll switch lanes and we'll talk about this science advisor who's saying that things are beyond science, but they also claim to be doing things because of science. I'm trying to put that all together in my head. And then some news on the mayor of the next potential mayor of Toronto. Which I can't wait for those debates. I can't wait. Let's hit the ad.
I am speaking to you at a moment of grave crisis, when violent and fanatical men are attempting to destroy the unity and the freedom of Canada.
But after weeks of dangerous and unlawful activities, after weeks of people being harassed in their neighborhoods and small businesses forced to close,
as democracy flourishes in Canada,
we don't always agree, and that's okay.
Because individual liberty is cherished in Canada.
Our government will always defend freedom of expression and freedom of peaceful assembly.
It has now been demonstrated to us by a few misguided persons.
After evidence of increased ideologically motivated violent extremism activity across the country,
just how fragile a democratic society can be,
it became clear that local and provincial authorities needed more tools to restore order and keep people safe.
These are matters of the utmost gravity, and I want to tell you what the government is doing to deal with them.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
The public's legitimate right to know why the government proclaimed an emergency and whether the actions it took were appropriate.
It is our view that there was no justification whatsoever to invoke the Emergencies Act.
It's so tough to watch. There's no reason for that. They were literally running the horses through the crowd.
The police came straight to me and he targeted me and he took his gun of tear gas and he actually shot me directly in my legs.
Was it worth invoking the Emergencies Act, ma'am, to trample on the rights and freedoms of Canadians?
Why do you think excessive honking means that the government should strip citizens away from their rights?
Our next and final witness is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Order à l'ordre.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
Well, Sheila, as always on our show, so many topics, so little time. Do we have time for another topic of your choosing? Oh, by the way, yes, we do. You teased before the break. A certain someone near and dear to us is going to be running for the mayor of Toronto.
Okay, let's get to that in a second. Let's get to the fun stuff towards the end. Let's hit the Trudeau science advisor, because this ties back into our discussion about farmers, and I'll package that up in a neat, tidy little bow. And then we'll talk about our friend Ben running for the mayor of Toronto. Let's hit the science advisor first, though. This is Trudeau's chief science advisor, a sciencey kind of guy. Although what I learned from the Public Order Emergency Commission is you can be an advisor on just about anything while simultaneously having no expertise in the field upon which you're advising. As we learned with the National Security Advisor, she was just some lady that seemed to have a lot of liberal ties, and she had existed around the bureaucracy for a while. So I don't know if that's the case with Ben Lobb here. I should do some Googling around, but he sure doesn't say very smart things here, I don't think.
Quick questions here to Sean. Sean, I just wondered, when we're making policy, when I say we, I mean the government and the civil servants, are making policy to, say, for example, the 30% reduction in fertilizer emissions, do we consult with the citizen scientist who would be the farmer? Do we consult with that individual and say, hey, Jim, do you think you could reasonably reduce your fertilizer use by 30% by such and such a date? Or do we make these targets and then say, hey, Jim, here's what you have to do, pal? Which one is it, and do we respect the citizen farmer scientist when we are making these targets?
Thank you for this question. It's, of course, a good one. This is really into the policy realm, I would say, which is beyond the purview of the scientists and the science managers and science advisors. Here, we were certainly very interested and active in trying to understand the fertilizer usage in partnership with AAFC colleagues and understanding impacts on the environment. But the actual policies of the 30% levels, or how this communication works with our partners within the farming community, are more at the policy level, and not something which I think we can speak to here.
So,
more at the policy level.
Here. I got to correct myself here. So Ben Lobb, good guy. He's a Conservative MP for Bruce Huron. I think it's Sean Marshall is the chief policy advisor, chief science advisor in environment and climate change. And this is so basically he's saying these 30% reductions, these are just a political decision. Now they tell us that they're all based in science and trust the science, and scientists are smarter than the farmers who use the chemicals on their plants to sustain their yields. But he's admitting we just sort of make these things up for political reasons, probably because everybody else is doing it.
Well, Sheila, what would those dumb farmers know about farming?
Yeah, right.
I mean, and I always was led to believe, I mean, I don't have a green thumb, but if I went into farming or even gardening, isn't fertilizer a good thing? Doesn't that make things grow? Don't we need food? I mean, yeah. I look at across the pond, the biggest supermarket chain in the UK, Tesco, is actually rationing fruits and vegetables right now. So doesn't that say to you that maybe in the supply chain there are shortages and we want fertilizer to boost yields as opposed to taking away fertilizer for virtue signaling, for this bullshit narrative of fighting the climate emergency? I mean, that's what this is about, Sheila, at the end of the day.
Yeah, you get to eat less and pay more for the food you can't afford to fight climate change. And yet this guy's telling us that we don't even know if this works. These are political decisions. And I say chemicals, and that's probably scaring people, but these are naturally occurring organic compounds that plants need to grow and thrive. You just add a little bit more to up your yield. And the idea that farmers are just out there in the field with a hose spraying fertilizer around and not using precisely only the amount that you need is insane. Fertilizer is expensive. Farmers, like I said earlier, input costs are up. We try to keep our input costs low so that we can maximize our financial income on the other side, because as I always point out, we're price takers. We're not price setters. We're selling into a global market at that price. We don't get to negotiate the price. And so, you have to keep your input costs low. So the idea that farmers are overusing fertilizer is absolutely crazy. And it's going to manifest itself very, very quickly on the grocery shelves. And rest assured, you can sleep well tonight knowing that science was not involved in any of this. Apparently.
Sheila,
Listen to the science guy.
Yeah. He's the science guy, but he's not the farming guy. And the absolute chutzpah, the sheer unmitigated gall at play here. Look, I'm a city boy. I don't know anything about farming. So the idea of me going on to Green Acres and telling the farmer, this is what you need to do, and you want to take away this fertilizer to save the planet. I wouldn't have that kind of gall even if I tried, Sheila. And that's what this is. It's absolutely galling.
Well, and I like how MP Ben Lobb from Huron-Bruce describes farmers there. He calls them citizen scientists. Yeah. And you better believe they are. These people live on the land. They make a living on the health of the land upon which they live and work. They are stewards of the land. Yeah. They know better about what their land needs and about the health of their land than some pencil-pushing bureaucrat in a cubicle in Ottawa somewhere, or some politically motivated virtue signaler in Justin Trudeau's cabinet. If their land is unhealthy, their families starve. One way or another, they are not going to harm their land to maximize profits. It just doesn't have any sort of foresight. And it is paternalism, nonsense, to think that Justin Trudeau would know better about my farm than I do.
Unbelievable.
Let's go to Ben. On that note, let's go to Ben. So Ben Bankus, comedian Ben Bankus in Toronto, who has made himself a healthy little career doing Teresa Tam's voice in videos and pretending to be a human-monkey hybrid developed in a lab in Wuhan. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. At one point in the middle of the video, the human-monkey hybrid just takes a drag off a smoke. And I don't know why every time I see it, I burst out laughing. He also did a voiceover pretending to be the Chinese spy balloon, which was quite funny. I think it's Ben Bankus Comedy on Facebook if you want to see those videos. But Ben, through and through a Torontonian, he's running to be the mayor. And I'm listening. He's not any more progressive than John Tory, I don't think. Anyway, let's take a listen.
My name is Ben Bankus, and I am running for mayor of Toronto. Under my new administration, we will be changing the name of Toronto to Toronto, which is the indigenous name for this place that we have colonized. We're running under a platform called Maximum Inclusion. We're going to be changing all street names named after white people to ethnic names. Wellesley will become Wuhan Boulevard, and Church Street will become Mosque Street. My name is Ben.
I'd laugh when the guy in the background goes, he, him.
The only problem is, Sheila, it's parody, but barely, right? Because
no, he could be the NDP leader. Listening to that, he could run the NDP and probably be more reasonable than Jagmeet Singh. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a joke campaign, but is he going to be any different than the mid-range lefty candidate running to run Toronto? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm picking up a Rhino Party vibe. And by Rhino, I don't mean Republican in name only. I mean the old Canadian party called the Rhinoceros Party, which it was all a lark. But sometimes they'd get more votes than some of the more serious candidates, which I always love to see because I just can only imagine their reaction. But yeah, I mean, we got Ben Bankus running for Toronto mayor. We have Chris Sky. I think he's announced that he's running for Toronto mayor. Mitzi Hunter, who is a Liberal MPP.
It sounds like a friend my dog would have. Mitzi Hunter. Sounds like a fancy dog name.
Well, Sheila, I actually know someone who worked on one of her campaigns. I'm not going to out him, but what he said about Mitzi Hunter, and this is what makes me cringe, is that she was by far the most stupid politician he has ever met. And remember, he was, on her team. So, that's, I don't think she's officially declared that. Do you expect any, other names of note, Sheila? And also, here's the bigger question. when it comes time for the debate circuit, do you see the likes of Bankus and Chris Guy getting into the debate, or are they going to pick and choose their favorites?
Oh, for sure. We're going to see they're going to limit who gets to come to the debates. And I think they probably won't have an official debate. And the reason for that is because these privately organized debates by these public interest groups, they will get to pick and choose to see who comes to their debate. And so I think they will probably exclude Chris Guy and Ben Bankus. And whatever you think about Chris Guy or whatever you think about Ben Bankus, if they're running legitimate campaigns, they should be able to be there. And I'm not even sure if Ben's is a legitimate campaign, but it will be indistinguishable from the NDP style campaign of some of the more left-wing candidates. So if he's going to go on the stage and say the same things as they are, he should probably be on the stage. And I think to do otherwise is censorship and undemocratic.
I agree. What are they afraid of? That's the question, Sheila. You are a politician, which by nature means you're a communicator. You can't handle their so-called offensive ideas with words. You have to have your, thugs bar them from the gates. I mean, that's not what our democracy is all about. So bring them on, because here's the thing. Why do certain elitists get to choose who's on that debate riser? That's my question. What is the litmus test?
Well, and if I think somebody's an idiot, I'm more than happy to debate them. But like I lean into it. I embrace it. I would love to debate an environmentalist on the impacts of climate change policies on farming. I would love to, because they tell me they have all the answers, and I'll tell you what it actually means at the end of the day. So I lean into that. If I think somebody is fundamentally wrong, and if I think I'm smarter than them, and if they're a bit of a joke, perfect. Let's talk about it. But something is to be said when they don't want to debate you, right? When they would rather just silence you, shut you up, and exclude you. I think it might not say anything about your ideas, but it says something about the confidence and strength of their own when they refuse to talk to you.
And Sheila, for those who say, oh, you can't be serious, you want a comedian to run the city? A comedian? You mean like John Tory? Here's a guy that for the last few years, we had to wear our masks, we had to socially distance, we weren't allowed to congregate, and then later, double jab or no job. And this was a guy horizontally jogging with one of his staffers, getting as close as humanly possible. Are you kidding me? Who's the comedian there? Except that's a brand of dark comedy, if you ask me, Sheila.
Look, if Justin Trudeau, the blackface actor, snowboard instructor, debutante, can be the leader of a G7 country, then surely Ben Bankus can be the mayor of Toronto. If Vladimir Zelensky, a man whose qualifications were playing the president of Ukraine on TV, could actually become a wartime president of Ukraine, then Ben Bankus can surely be the mayor of Canada's largest city.
Yeah, and lest we forget, several years ago, someone who was written off by the political establishment, that being Jesse the Body Ventura, actually became the governor of Minnesota. So and that I mean, I wish I had bet on that election, Sheila. I'd be a rich man. So crazy things can happen out there. Who knows?
Kane, Glenn Jacobs, he's the mayor of Knox County. So Knox County, Tennessee. So, like anybody can be anything, as long as they're allowed to put up a fair campaign. And that's all I think we want here.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe let's get to some of these questions. We started, or super chats of whatever kind. We started late, so we're going a little bit late today. Thanks, Efron, for humoring us. My friend Mike from Freedom Honey. This is Mike Mayer. He's a veterans advocate for vulnerable children in the court system, and just an all-around good guy. He and his soon-to-be wife, Sherry. Anyways, Mike writes, $5. What's the plan for Alberta to combat the Trudeau fertilizer ban? Will the Sovereignty Act stop this? I don't know if it's going to stop this, but it's going to require Danielle Smith to fight back, which is what the Sovereignty Act does. And she's mentioned that the fertilizer ban is sort of all tied into the just transition. And as we know, she hates the just transition. She's going to fight it. And she said it left a pit in her stomach. So she's disgusted by it all. So hopefully she does launch a furious attack against this. And here's the thing with fertilizer ban. We actually don't need the feds to manufacture fertilizer. We take potash from northern Saskatchewan, natural gas from here. We can do this on our own if they want us to. Like, it's going to hurt eastern farmers because they're going to have to reduce their fertilizer. But like, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna, and I don't need to go elsewhere to buy fertilizer. So,
but Sheila, that's the point. They don't care who they hurt. This is all about virtue signaling.
Oh, he will.
Wokeism.
He will once he hurts eastern farmers and not Alberta farmers.
Yeah.
Then he might change his little stupid mind.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Anyway, watch, they'll be after my bees next. Yeah, isn't that the truth? You guys are the best. And David Busty is a troll. I don't know. I don't think he's a troll, Mike. I think he's a fetishist weirdo.
Mike, we're getting blasted by some people for not recognizing that he's a troll, but is he? I mean, I'm honest. I don't know until it's a known. And it could be that he's a troll, and it could be that this person is mentally ill. And we don't know yet. Those are the only two. One thing we do know for sure is that this is not a genuine male to female transition. That we know. And even he said that because he's now saying, I'm not transgender, I'm intersex. And that those breasts are real, right? So, until we have it confirmed, and I don't know when we're ever going to get a verdict on this, Sheila, could be that he is trolling the board, could be that he needs a psychiatrist. Right now, those are the two options, and I don't know which one to bet on, quite frankly.
In a better time, a more sane time, this guy would be treated the same way as those weirdos wearing trench coats and nothing but socks at the bus stop. That's what this is all about. So I don't think he's a troll, although that's two Mikes in my life telling me that this is a troll. But I'm firmly in fetish camp with regard to Busty Lemieux and those obnoxious road cones leaning on the bandsaw there, or the circular saw. I'm sorry.
And Sheila, that's truly where I'm leaning. And I'll quickly say this anecdote. A while back, the Busty Lemieux went to a Burlington theater. It was a private event, and it was for little girls doing dance recitals. And he snuck in, allegedly, at the intermission time. And there he was, front row center, taking in these little girls dancing at a private event. And naturally, the parents and guardians, mostly mothers, of course, started saying, who is that person there? And there, I think Efren has a photo because we have the photographic evidence. There you go, Sheila. That's the Burlington Theater. Right there, front row center. And after one of the dances, and by the way, also as the story goes, it looked like he was becoming aroused by the dancers. And when I say dancers, 8 to 12-year-old girls. Yes.
This is why he wears the bike shorts.
Oh, this is like Buffalo Bill stuff from Silence of the Lambs, if you ask me.
That's what I said the other day. I said, he's Buffalo Bill. I think I said that to Laura Rosen-Cohen. We have an ongoing email communication.
She's wonderful.
She's wonderful. She writes for Mark Stein, and she is the Jewish overbearing mother version of me. And we had this big long email thread, and all I sent back to her at the end of it was Buffalo Bill. Yeah, in a different time, this guy would have a menagerie of women in his basement, and he would be telling them to put the lotion on their skin or else they get the hose again, because he would want to wear a skin suit of them. But let me tell you, if this guy were watching my little girl dance on stage, I would stuff him and his tits in that circular saw while he was still wearing them.
Well, I don't think that would do anything, Sheila. Those are like two airbags that will protect them from any...
Well, we're going to find out if they're real or not.
Oh, yeah, that's
for
true.
sure.
But Sheila, the point I'm getting to, for Mike and for all those others who are saying, oh, he's just trolling. It's a cosmic prank against the Halton District School Board. If that's the case, here's a photograph of Busty Lemieux, clearly not at Oakville Trafalgar High School, clearly not in a shop class. He's on his own time at a private event, which he allegedly snuck into, taking in little girls dancing.
How does he sneak into anywhere? I'm sorry.
Maybe he was wearing a burqa at the time. I don't know, Sheila.
I'm taking my glasses off because I'm seeing that all a little bit too clearly. I prefer the blur.
So my question is, for all the pro-prankster narrative people, why would he do that? And again, I'm not saying he's not pranking, but that seems to be an elaborate length to go to. For what reason? It's, look at that. Not even Red Green could have thought of a use for duct tape.
Can we go back to that photo for a second? Can we see the neckline in that one? Sorry, Efron. Yeah, that's fake. Look that's the silicone neckline.
Because
I don't care how much sunscreen you wear. Your neck doesn't look like that. Those are completely fake. I don't even know why I'm doing this investigation because everybody knows they're fake, but he says they're real. We can see the fake silicone neckline, and I know because I tried on David's.
Oh,
so I know.
Sheila, well, this is the thing. Let's pretend he got this condition at 39 that caused him to overdevelop female breast to a Z cup level. What are the odds that those breasts, those so-called real breasts, are the exact same shape and size as the boobs I bought off of eBay for $500, which you tried on? And I got to tell you, Sheila, never have you looked so lovely. But
they were so heavy, I couldn't breathe. That's the thing. This guy is really committed to his fetish because they are crushing on your rib cage. I'm not really a big woman. He's a lot bigger, and those boobs make his beer gut look a lot smaller, all things being relative when he's wearing them. But they are crushing. They are very, very heavy. You have to carry them in like a hockey bag. They're so big.
Sheila, I have a new admiration for biological women after wearing those sweater stretchers.
We don't look like that though. It's not a big deal. It's not like that.
Well, apparently one does because I had a backache when I went to the Halton District School Board meeting, which of course got me banned for life, like referee Danny Davis in the WWF days. Because, well, you see, folks, the HDSB, they're right down there with radical transgenderism, but only when it's in front of the kids, not when it comes up close and personal to them and starts asking impolite questions. And there I am. You see, if we can get Efren to, we're scanning over, we're looking at the looks of revulsion of the trustees, and look at that. I got the same set of knockers as Lemieux does. So if his are real, what did they do? Do a mold of his breasts to create a fake product for the fetish gear people? No, I think the odds of that being the case would make the most reckless gambler cringe, Sheila. By the way, I'm getting a lot of good comments online about my legs. That's due to the site.
They are great. I got to give it to you. They're great. They're great.
I'll take a compliment wherever I can find it.
Yeah. I'm doing squats and you're just showing up in bike shorts, just brazen. We're way past time, and we just spent 10 minutes on me offering to stick those boobs in the circular saw. So let's move on, maybe. We've got one from Alberta Dawn. Anyways, just so the mics in my life know, I'm still in fetish country, and you guys can be in troll country. I still think he's just a complete and total creep show. Anyways, Alberta Dawn, $5. Global News announced a job fair soon for Ukrainians displaced by war. Employment is important because they're not eligible for refugee benefits, unlike the Roxham Road grifters. I don't know if they're not eligible for refugee benefits, but I think Canada is probably a good place for Ukrainians to resettle. because there are a lot of them already here and they're culturally compatible with Canada. And I think that was some of the culture clash when we had a lot of Syrian migrants come here as Syrian refugees fleeing the war there. Look, I'm pro-refugee. I've done some aid work, I guess, or fundraising for Christian refugees in the Middle East. I am anti-displacing of people, but we are culturally compatible, especially here in the West with Ukrainians. We have language programs. I mean, you open up the phone book if such a thing exists in this part of the world, and you'll find more Ukrainian names than anything else here. If you are going to resettle Ukrainians in a place where they will be successful, it's probably Canada, because there aren't a lot of those integration issues that we saw with the Syrian refugees from before. And I often always thought, why didn't the Muslim world take in the Syrian refugees? It would have been a lot easier for the Syrian refugees to integrate into a Muslim country. But no, I guess the Muslim countries weren't taking them, I think was the problem.
Yeah, and why are they so silent about the Uyghur genocide in China for that fact too, Sheila? But you know what? On the file for Ukrainian Canadians, I got my education in that regard when I began my journalism career by starting at a small newspaper in St. Paul, Alberta. And there was a village near St. Paul, I don't know if you ever heard of it, called Murnum. And yes. I think every single person in Murnum was Ukrainian, and they had a hockey team. They needed a goalie, and I needed a team, so it was a marriage. And I was the only non-Ukrainian on this hockey team. By the way, it was their name was the Murnum Marksmen. I don't know if they're still around. It was a very unfortunate logo for a goalie to wear, which is a target, which I painted on my goalie mask. So you know where a lot of the pucks were headed, right, Sheila? Even in practice. But I digress. If you don't believe me, I'll bring in a team photo of that on a future show. So. And my goodness, I had no idea that there were so many Ukrainians until I went to Western Canada. And wow, I was introduced to pierogies. Love it.
Yeah, we have the big pierogi out here, the world's largest pierogi, the world's largest kubasa, coil of garlic sausage somewhere. It's if you are going to resettle Ukrainian refugees, is probably the place to do it. I always thought it was odd that the Muslim world didn't want to take the Syrian refugees in, especially the richer countries like Saudi Arabia,
by the way,
Lebanon.
Sheila, what is the unspoken reason, do you think, that they don't want to take in Syrian refugees?
I think they didn't want the potential for the terrorists to hide amongst the refugees and come in too. The Muslim world is just as concerned about their safety as we are, and they
I disagree. They're more concerned.
Yes, that's true.
They don't
Saudi
have
Arabia.
a Roxham Road in these Middle East countries. There's no such a thing. Just try it.
It's the same reason that Canadians struggled to vet them, right? Like the Canadian government struggled to vet the Syrian refugees. They were coming from places where there were no documentation. People were presenting themselves at the refugee processing centers with no documents saying, trust me, I'm not I'm not ISIS. I promise, cross my heart and hope to die. And I think a lot of the Muslim countries in the world said it's just not a risk we want to take. Anyway, let's keep going. We have that. Oh, we'll get to, I see Efron put it in the chat, so we'll get to it. Fraser McBurney. Congratulations are in order here. Fraser McBurney, fight the fine recidivist, daily watcher of the daily live stream, weekly protester, freedom fighter. It's Fraser McBurney's birthday today. He gives us a birthday present on his birthday of 75 incredibly generous dollars.
Wow, thank you.
He says, this Sunday, the 26th, I reached 3/4 of a century old. Having experienced these years, I'd rather live in the 60s and 70s before we had all these criminal governments and laws. Well, Fraser, here's to, well, maybe 75 more, but I hope you get another 25 good ones in your last few years that we've known you, you've worked very, very hard to leave this country a better place during these dire times. So happy birthday to you, and thanks for everything you do to make Hamilton a freer place.
I'm just doing the math there, Sheila. 3/4 of a century old. Hold on. Carry the one. Is that
Okay,
75?
while you work on that, I'll go to the next chat while you break out your calculator, your abacus.
Sheila, are you at the half century mark yet?
David, you're awful. Do you think I'm 50? It's right around the corner.
I don't know.
I'm 43.
Okay.
For those of you who
well,
want to
you
know.
didn't have to give me the exact age. I would never dare ask that. But then again,
But
half
you
a
just
century
did.
is 50.
You just did. Anyway. Maminka gives us $10. Sheila, David, exactly. Any act of Trump's is always discredited, no matter how good it is and how much of a difference it makes. He wouldn't be my number one choice for president, but he is a good man. Yeah, I believe that too. I mean, he's warts and all. He doesn't pretend, I don't think, to be anything he's not. Like I said, he's probably the kind of guy who has a gold toilet, but also eats at McDonald's or has McDonald's brought in as catering on his private jet, which I like. It feels like if someone from the trailer park won $1 billion, that's how Donald Trump would be, or that's how Donald Trump is. And I kind of like that.
But Sheila, I just go back 2 or 3 short years. I look at the United States of America, energy independent, record low unemployment, especially in categories such as Asian, Latino, Black, female, no inflation, low interest rates. Foreign policy wise, the world was a hell of a lot safer place. Seriously, regardless of your political affiliation, do you think the world is a better place in 2023 than it was in, say, 2019? And I say resoundingly no.
Yeah, we've got Iran bragging about how close they are to being able to nuke the entire Middle East. We've got China spy balloons flying over everything. The aliens are coming now. A war between Russia and Ukraine, which seems to be, I think, quickly turning into the new Vietnam, where we have, the communists on one side, or the new communists, the neo-communists on one side, and the free world throwing the bonfire or throwing bodies of innocent third parties onto whatever war that they think they're fighting out. I think that's what's happening in Ukraine. The world is definitely not a safer place, and Americans are not better off. We saw a complete breakdown of supply chain issues. An entire town is poisoned in the United States.
Right. And the air shows were like the Thunderbirds, the Blue Angels, not Chinese balloons floating over nuclear facilities. By the way, on that note, Sheila, I got to tell you, I saw a great image. It was of the iconic Goodyear blimp. And, they've got a video display that they can put messages on. And it said, "Don't shoot." Right? And then
I saw that too.
Tragically, Sheila, and this tells you about the internet being a fountain of misinformation so often. Evidently, that was photoshopped. But, oh, how I wish that was a real Goodyear blimp message.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was pretty funny, but I didn't think it was real. Unlike you, I have better internet spidey senses. You are who Justin Trudeau wants to make the disinformation laws for, I think. Melinda G 60 gives us $5 and says, "We love you guys so much down here in Texas. I can't go a day without Rebel News." Well, that's great.
Wow. And Melinda, I so want to get down to Texas. I want to go to that area of Texas that is famous for, is it brisket, Sheila? Is that the name? I know there's like a region where it's the best in the world. And, as when your commander-in-chief takes the vax rules off, I'll come back to the United States of America. Can't wait.
Yeah. Go back to the Houston rodeo. We've got a chat from yesterday. It's Kenzie67. Chris Guy is running for mayor of Toronto. He's very knowledgeable about 50-minute cities and other serious issues. Will you interview him about it? If, like we said earlier, if there's a mayoral candidate talking about serious issues, then we're open to talking to them. and even ones that are not talking about serious issues, like Ben Bankus, he, him.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sheila. For everyone out there, I don't hold grudges. You might recall Chris Guy stormed out on a live interview I was doing with him a while back. But he is a candidate, and I think one of the storylines might be if Chris Guy and Ben Bankus and others who are deemed so-called fringe candidates aren't allowed in. Hell, that's a story. And I mean, Chris Guy has a lot of super fans. He also has a lot of people that can't stand him. I will say this, because I call him as I see him. He was right about a lot of the things that, came into effect during the worst of the pandemic. So we'll see what unfolds in this by-election. I can't wait for this by-election, Sheila. I think it's going to be batshit crazy. It's going to be
so much fun. Toronto's going to be fun again. I can't wait to see Ben Bankus's next campaign ad. Like every time Theresa Tam or the federal government does like one of those stupid videos, I wait 3 hours. Then I go check Ben Bankus's Facebook page or his Instagram. And sure enough, he's got a voiceover where he takes the exact ad and then just does his voiceover where he talks like Theresa Tam. I just can't wait. I can't wait for this. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
Theresa Tam, she of the pregnant people. Follow that science, folks. That's our top doctor, and she's thinking that men can get pregnant. By the way, I'll bring this. I know we're running out of time, but for the next show, a viewer from Las Vegas, Sheila, sent me an image. You will not believe it. It was at a fashionable boutique, and it was a female mannequin, but you can tell beneath the fabric, this female mannequin had a fake penis. So I'm thinking, if I'm a lady...
Why?
Pardon me?
But why? Like, why even do that? Most mannequins don't have genitals. That's...
Oh, but this one
ideally,
did.
That's the point.
Yeah, I know. And that's the point. Suddenly, for mannequins, male or female, that have never had genitals, I guess to be trans-friendly, we stick some male wedding tackle there. Unbelievable.
I don't understand the point. And I'm not even against like bigger mannequins. Like, when you go into a store, you want to see how the clothes look like on you. So I never look quite like the mannequin. I'm like, well, that one needs to be a little bit more unisex fit to look like me. But I appreciate when they have bigger mannequins for other people of different sizes. That makes sense.
Yes.
But just slapping some genitals on a mannequin just to check a diversity box, that seems a bit...
In order, I'll ask her to go into the store and say, can you give us the ostensible policy reason why she kind of looks like a he south of the equator? Because how does this appeal to biological women, which I imagine are 99.99% of your clientele, to buy your dresses and skirts and whatnot? Like, who are you marketing to?
Well, and mannequins generally don't have, they're like Barbie, right? Like, it's just... There's nothing there. And there's a reason for that, right? Like, you don't want to see lumps and bumps under the clothes. So they've actually gone and attached this for some reason. It's not like they took a male mannequin bottom and put a female mannequin top on. That's not what they did. They actually went and did like some arts and crafts time to get it to look this way, which is
Sheila,
weird.
You raise a very dire scenario. How long will it be before Mattel introduces trans Barbie? And unlike the last 50 years of Barbies, there'll be a little package under the skirt for your own personal crying game.
Noah, get the arc. Just get it.
You wait. I'm telling you it's coming. And if it isn't coming, Mattel will be condemned as being transphobic.
Just turn away from pop culture. Don't look back or you'll turn to a pillar of salt. Just don't even. Alberta Dawn gives us $5 again. When displaced Ukrainians composed mainly of women and children whose husbands stayed behind to fight arrived in Canada, Trudeau welcomed them, but said they must return in 3 years. I remember that. And it was the women and children came, the men stayed behind. I also think it was mandated that fighting age men had to stay and defend their country. And then they were giving out guns to civilians. Because apparently guns do work for civilians to defend themselves against invaders over there, but not in my home.
And Sheila, I can tell you this, how interesting, because in 2018, when super producer Efren and I went to Mexico to follow, we were basically embedded in the caravan that was heading to the U.S. You remember that? Tens of thousands of people that were going to just walk right across the border. But of course, you had Donald Trump there at the time, so that didn't happen. And the first huge media lie was 50% of those in the migrant caravan were children. No, it was actually less than 1% easy, unless your definition of a child is someone over 30. And secondly, it was predominantly male economic migrants. Thank God we went down there to see it firsthand, Sheila, because what you were getting, and by the way, when I quote that 50% were children, that was from CBC, right? Who I don't think were down there. So they were just making up this rubbish. Jesus. But I can tell you, and you can see some of the clips were running. Where are the kids? Where's the school bus? No.
Who's paying for those trucks, by the way?
I know. So how interesting it is that it's males that are going from Mexico, Central, even South America, up to, flee whatever they're fleeing. And with Ukraine, it's the men staying behind and women and children coming here. What does that say?
Yeah, I remember seeing those access to information documents when the Syrian migrant processing centers that were overseas, because they process them there before they come here. And they were prioritizing, rightfully, family units first. So they got but there was no definition of family units. So you'd have two fighting age men come in and say, we're a family unit. Oh. And they'd be like, fine, I guess you're brothers or a couple. Like they were just taking, like if you walked in two people together, no proof, no anything, saying we're a family unit, and they knew that would bump you to the front of the line.
Oh, Sheila, 100% it's brothers, not as a couple, because
for
we
sure.
know where that
really
will get you in Syria.
Of course. Let's Annalisa, 1964. Look at this. Annalisa, I hope you're still here because David and I are still talking an hour and 40 minutes later. Gives $100 and says, just because.
Wow.
What's obviously for David, because she's got you in the bloodstream over there. You're swimming around in there like a spike protein. But $100.
I'll take it, Annalisa. That's so generous. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Annalisa. Wow, thank you so much.
75. Unbelievable. Wow, what a show. Wow. We've only gone, 40 minutes over? So, but I'm not complaining.
Sorry, Efron.
It's a joy. I had a lot of fun, and here we are, as I like to say on this day. Thank God it's TGIF. Wait a minute, that might be redundant. But thank you to all of you who tuned in. Thank you to Efron.
We're not done. You're wrapping it up. We still got chats to read. We still have one more to read.
I was picking up on your body language. It looked like you wanted to divest yourself of me.
Is it that noticeable? No, I'm kidding. This is the fastest hour and 40 minutes on TV for me. And it's mostly because I dread going back to the other work that I'm supposed to be doing. Because this is fun, and that is, well, it's okay, but it's not fun. Ableist SL gives us $10 and says, do you agree that Loli Show, okay, I already don't know what we're talking about, and I'm sorry, but I checked out of pop culture and all those things a very, very, very long time ago. As I say on the show all the time, I have the musical taste of your 70-year-old retired truck driving uncle. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm not here. I'm like old Waylon Jennings and Tammy Wynette. That's where I live. I don't live in internet culture talk. Anyways, says, do you agree that Loli Show should be banned as it's not pedophilic? I have no idea. Read my Rumble comment for more info, and note we ripped Soygon, also don't know, and his Lotus Eaters butt buddies for saying otherwise. You know what? I'm just happy you paid me $10 to say that. I have no idea what 50% of those words mean, and I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes on some sort of internet rabbit hole so I educate myself on this stuff. Generally, I'm not against banning things, but I'm always worried when we use the word pedophilic. I just always think that we should take extra caution around things that might look like children.
Yes. And evidently, for those supporters in that camp, I understand the politically correct word, Sheila, these days, and this just shows you how dark our world is becoming, intergenerational love, right?
I think they've made it a sexual preference now. It's minor attracted persons now, which is just completely stripping away how horrible and disgusting and evil it is.
Yep. 100%.
Yep. Now I think we're all wrapped up.
Okay, then. And I want to say to the folks out there tuning in today, Sheila, you've been so generous with your donations. Yes. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Thank you to Efren, our super producer behind the boards. Thank you to the lovely and talented Sheila Gunn-Reid. We shall be back here on Monday, February 27th. Wow, the month just whizzed by, didn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, incredible. In the meantime, as always, folks, stay safe and stay sane.